who are not haters. And to the haters, well, it's up to you if you want to be haters. Yeah. Coming back from work. Yeah, the ice in Dallas was, and Fort Worth, has been a pretty big deal for 3 days. To be driving Uber 3 or 4 days now. Stayed icy. And so I haven't really stuck with the news much in the last couple of days. That I've been working so many hours. We're not working, sleeping. But I don't know, there's nothing much to say immediately, I guess. I will look at the chat if I see some familiar faces that have some, or anybody that's got a question that I might be able to help with. Yes, I don't know why I logged in. If I don't got anything to say, somebody. To say anything. Oh, there's a pilot. I actually got a better price, I think. Yeah, I paid. Well, I paid the same price. I could have got. Well, that's weird. It's a Road Ranger. I think that might be pilots. I don't know. I'm just maybe getting confused. I thought it just stopped at a pilot, but it ended up, there was a sign there, but I don't know where the station was. So I just got to guess where I was. But actually a sign there for Hillsborough. Well, anything going on out there for anybody in internet land? You probably got to keep that on if you want to see that there's somebody that's not a ghost over here. See, there's nobody watching now anyway. Oh, okay. You never know when someone's going to come in here, right? But I guess, we're seeing all the signs are apparent all the time. And they have application for whoever can see them. And the lower forces make them into things that are ordinary to our minds by making, by incorporating the language that represents the markers of the next level's operation on this planet into ordinary kind of supernatural talk, mystical talk, metaphorical talk, which the next level knew was going to happen. Even though they didn't know exactly how, when, well, they knew when it was going to happen. But they didn't know exactly what it would look like getting there. In other words, to the complete, the pathway is taken. The exact pathway is taken. Like for instance, take the word Armageddon. Okay? Anybody that's familiar with, the record books knows that's talking about some kind of war between good and evil. Okay, so it's a joke for those that think there is no good and evil. Well, because the spiritual idea, the purely mental, imaginatory, in a religious or spiritual, religio-spiritual framework, it should be when the times are changing. Like, sure, it was it was a superstitious or supernatural view to think that there was one true God, when that really meant one older member. Who was in charge of the project for this current civilization of growing souls that could one day, on their own desire, without any manipulation, without any conspiracy to enslave them, without any desire to enslave anybody, without over the program. That there was one older member that was over the program, the process, the evolution of mind and body. $378. Anyway, I don't know if I said anything just now, because I know I got distracted. But I guess what I'm saying is that, for whatever it's worth to anybody, I got to make this exit though. Is that it was superstitious before, and it was completely understandable 2,000 years ago, or even 1,000 years ago, or even just a mere couple hundred years ago. But now it's not. Now it doesn't apply anymore. Because that's like saying, what we should be talking about is what happened 2,000 years ago as what we're expecting to happen now. And yet there's been an evolution of mind to what's happening now. But there's also been, with the evolution of mind, the dominance of the misinformation mind. The facts. That's the misinformation mind, or not the facts. The misinformation mind would have humans think that a number of things were the ultimate truth. One being that each human has the potential, that each human is a god if they would only admit it and accept it. Another way is that if you call on the name of a savior of some sort, be it the Buddha or Krishna, I think or Muhammad, the ascended masters. And some people would probably include the popes and the heads of organizations like what the individual L. Rob Hubbard started. Wasn't he the one individual that started the Scientology belief system structure? L. Ron Hubbard, that's what his name was, right? And all the other groups, Rael. Those are modern day, what would be called It depends on what they're saying. If they're putting out what degree of misinformation they're mixing in with what degree of true information. The true information is that humans are another. They are not the same because each human is developing experience and potentially succeeding at developing experience in conquering whatever they decide is not the preferred behavior, not the most positive behavior that they can have. And towards one another is the process in which we can refine our behavior to be better and better behavior. I know when some individuals hear that word, that the next level is training us, oh boy, do they have a problem with that. Because that's like making it sound like the next level is greater and they're lesser. So that's misinformation mind that they're dwelling on if they vibrate on that, if they act on that, if they consider that that's the most evolved position to take. Isn't actually training us. They are giving us the tools to train ourselves. But not really. Because if people knew that the next level, what they really were, that they really did literally, specifically, in detail, in great detail, and in great amount of effort, for a huge amount of time that we can't conceive of, developed, grew the earth and the life forms on it, the kingdom levels in it, the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, and the human kingdom. If people really thought that was possible, that such a thing existed, such beings existed, then because, like, let's say a pet dog, a domesticated animal, or a dog that is refusing to learn the things that the human is trying to teach them in order for them to enjoy what that animal offers the human. In other words, if the animal doesn't offer the humans anything, then would the humans want them around? I think not. Even if it's companionship of that animal just being, but if that animal is starting to nip at the children, that animal is not going to stay around those kids very long unless they can be trained out of doing that. hard to get that to receive that premise, that opinion, that belief, that recognition, that degree of the idea. What the hell? Oh, right, I'm not on the interstate anymore. I do have to watch out that there's not any ice spots. Pretty dry so far, and I got like a half moon very bright in front of me. Looks very nice. Don't feel like that was put into place by the next level. Exactly where it is. I shouldn't say exactly, but the reason I'm saying that is because the next level, you know, they're always tweaking things. If they learn of a better orbit, they could probably tweak it right now. They probably could have a spacecraft that could do something to affect the moon's orbit. Maybe they could send a comet close enough to do something to change the orbit. Maybe they can send enough dark matter or solar waveforms to affect the orbit of the planet, of the moon, or other planets. To think that that's not possible is well, to not be aware of what's possible. It's not good or bad. It's just not aware of what's possible. I know that such things are possible, even if the next level doesn't do what I'm saying. I'm saying that they've got ways of doing things that need to be done, but that doesn't mean that they can do anything. No, they can't do anything. I'm in two-wheel drive. Back to all-wheel drive. I did feel like I had a little tiny skid a few times. common sense. I heard a radio station on an AM station that's, I think basically it's a Christian-based station, which, you know, doesn't mean it's all bad. The way some people would have you think, any more than any nation's people are all bad because their leaders are bad. But I was hearing him talk about that he was the broadcast of common sense. Well, yeah, sure, you can have a lot of common sense, but you can still simultaneously, in some ways, have little common sense. Because we don't necessarily know what common sense is unless we have experience to teach us what common sense is. And of course, a certain amount of that is in the genes. It comes from the genes. It comes from the ancestral mind. Because the ancestral mind is a tree in itself. Zone here. Better be careful in the small towns. So I got some comments in here. Quite a few, actually. Actor Michael Merchant, hello. Thank you. I'm trying to drive safe, and I appreciate the words of positivity in that regard. Yeah, the last person I gave a ride to, I was having trouble tuning into the directions going through Dallas because I've been working since 3 o'clock, so I'm coming on 12 hours, or driving since that long, and less an hour for how long I've actually been giving rides. An hour less than that, 12. But, and the mind gets tired, right? We all know that. And it just doesn't process things the same. Or as quickly. At least for me, it's easy to be, you know, I can see the direction I'm supposed to go, and it's like I can't hold on to it with my mind. So I'm not remembering, you know, the directions that I'm trying to achieve. And, you know, when you're in a city that's got a lot of twists and turns in it with a customer that's paying for you to get them there, you don't want to make wrong turns. They'll give you a bad grade, and that goes on your record. But you don't want to do that anyway, because you want them to get to where they're going with the maximum amount of time. So he was giving me directions, and I was welcoming it. I told him I was tired, and it's hard for me to some people are ignorant of that, and they make fun of people that have driving jobs. And they probably make fun of people that have other kinds of jobs too, as being less significant than their jobs. And yet their job may have no value at all. I mean, it's probably going to have a value to somebody. But I mean, adoration from others. But is that really the measurement of their stature? Well, I guess it depends on who we look to for that. And I could hear the lower forces saying, well, of course you would say that because you don't have any stature, huh? Ha, ha, ha. You don't have any money. You don't have any fame. Whatever else they say. You were duped. And you had enough sense to get out of it, but now you're still talking like you're in it. Blah, 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 blah. And you can go on and on and on and on. The negativity is easy to come by. That's the easy way to think about things. It's easy to go along with the government for some people, unless you've seen through it, unless you know how much they're lying, unless you know how much they're manipulating. It doesn't mean they do nothing good. They do things that are good. But usually they do the things that are good because they don't want the people to revolt more. And they want to pull the wool over the eyes of the ones that do have some kinds of genuine moral code that isn't in judgment against those that don't have exactly the same moral code. While many that have different moral codes feel completely justified to break the prime directive that really did come from the next level older members to the human kingdom that was talked about in Star Trek. Because the next level influenced them to know that that was a prime directive that humans had, to not interfere with human choices by manipulating them. But that's not the same thing, because the lower forces would tell you that that's what the next level does. They don't manipulate, but they guide the humans in certain directions. That is true. They do. But the way they give us some degree of a sense of seeing more, having more enlightenment. Uh-oh, did I miss my turn? No, I didn't miss my turn, did I? late actually. But I'm just 4 minutes away from my destination. So I don't know if I made any complete thoughts in this little stream. So it makes perfect sense to me that this is a training program, and that Next Level gives us the tools, and we have to ask for those tools, and we have to ask on how to use those tools, and we have to ask how to apply the tools, because the tools are our vehicles and our minds, and what we put our minds on and what we take our minds off of. That we're the chooser. That's all we are. We're the part of the living being that chooses, well, you know what? You know, I like to play games with this type of game, or that type of game, or, you know, I like to gamble in this way, or that way, or, you know, or I like to, you know, I don't have very good examples, I guess, of the choices. I mean, they're just obvious. They're just everything. In other words, everything we think, say, and do is worthy of being under scrutiny. But that doesn't mean that we have to be, you know, always preoccupied with everything we think, say, and do. No, I mean, you know, there's times to evaluate things, and there's times to just even just be an open channel to what, like, let's say we ask the Next Level for help in some way. Well, then after we do that, doesn't mean we keep on asking like they do in the religions, where you say, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth until it is in heaven." And, you know, Hail Mary, full of grace, blah, blah, blah. Because that's what I was taught to do, you know. Whenever you did something wrong, you would have to go to the priest in the confessional and tell him what you did wrong, and then they would say, well, say 3 Our Fathers and 6 Hail Marys, and so then you go to the altar where there's a place to kneel, and you say those things in the church, and then you'd leave. And then you forgot what you even said. I used to have to think, you know, what are my sins? You know, I have to go to confession, but what are my sins? What did I do wrong just now, you know? And the last thing I was going to do was going to tell them that I was stealing from the school, you know, or stealing from a business, you know, to have money to buy candy bars and shoot pool and play pinball and buy weed. You know, I'm not proud of that. But, you know, I wasn't going to tell the confessional that. Of course, I wasn't doing those things when I was still going to the confessional. I don't think. I don't know when I stopped doing that, but... Oh, I gotta look at my number. I will take a minute to go through the chat. I don't need my number. That's good. I guess the pin pad's not working, so anyway. So let's see what's going on in the chat for a minute here. Yes, actor Michael Merchant, driving safe, and Costco hot dog says, great point. Can we get a hog reveal? Okay, I don't know what that is exactly. Quicksilver says hello to you. And another great point. So hog, question mark. Okay, from Costco hot dog. And you Jazz, message retracted. Okay. Some kind of critter and emoji. And then you Jazz. Who else is up? Just chilling. Saw Odie. Yeah, it's actually, for the record, it's spelled S-W-Y, O-D-Y. Because they took the William Sawyer and the instruction was to take the vowels out of it, pretty much. It didn't happen consistently 100% with everybody, but that was the general way. They reduced it to 3 letters in order to fit on schedules and things, because we had schedules, of who was going to work in the kitchen, which we call the Nutrilab, and things like that. When, everybody did it, but some did it more than others because some had other tasks. Anyway, so you Jazz says hi, and you Jazz says, life has been a Twilight Zone episode lately, the way things are going. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, isn't it? If you hadn't been experiencing it for so long, it still has that with it, that, is this really happening like this? It's like, it's well, I mean, there's good things happening, okay? We don't necessarily see them, but the people that are seeing this as a Twilight Zone, that's showing, at least the way I see it, that something good is happening with that individual or those individuals. Because if you don't feel that way, and you're just part of the aspects that give it that point of view, then you may not be separating from the human kingdom as much. Because what we're seeing is the playing out of behaviors that are not members of the next level behaviors. I mean, guns is not something next level members would want humans to be using against each other. That tells you a lot. That tells you something to, the gun toters organizations, and I'm not saying that the people being able to do things without guns, even handling violent people, isn't on the agenda much. It's to some degree it is. Sometimes there's been improvement in that regard. I don't know if the prisons are doing it, but there are programs that can help people that were prone to violence or victims of violence to get past it uh, um, to seek help if they've had a problem in that regard, if they have anger issues that can result in harming somebody else. You know, and you can see where it can be easily justified when somebody is harming somebody else, and you don't want that to happen. And so if you're willing to harm them because they're harming somebody else, then are you really accomplishing something except for, at the most, putting on pause? Because then what happens is those that took up arms against the ones that had the arms and were taking them up against other people that may or may not have arms, then you're forming the criteria of that will become the next government organization to restrict certain behaviors and ways, because those behaviors and ways represent the previous ones who were the authoritarians that were using their weapons to lord over people. And so you see the examples of that with rights being taken away for what you can say, and to where if you're saying something that the government that's in power or the social media site that is in cahoots to some degree with the government that's in power, if you can put on your list the words that they can't use without being subject to an investigation that can fine them for using those words, and even put them in jail to set an example. That's what's happening in England. And it's happening here too in the United States, but it seems to be more hidden how that happens. You know, to where somebody says too much about something, about the truth about something that they don't really want to be talked about, and all of a sudden that person disappears. I mean, that's what the Epstein story is about, right? That some of the truth of what he was involved with was coming out. And why was it coming out, by the way? It's because the next level knows that these things are going to surface, because there's going to be some individuals that are searching for the truth about all things, or not necessarily all things at the same time. Some people search for the truth about that subject, for instance. Others for the truth about the space aliens and the UFOs, and others the truth about what really stimulated, what really took place in 9/11 and other things. Okay, or what is the truth to what was called prophecy? Is there truth in there? I mean, when I say truth, I mean something that's real, something that really was a reflection of a portrayal, or what's the word for it? A proposition, or a forecast of events that would be taking place in the future, because the next level was going to make sure those events were visible to humans. Not that they were going to make the events happen, but they knew that the lower forces would do certain things to try to get humans to do certain things on their behalf, and that it would look like what it looks like now. that we're experiencing in the Twilight Zone that we're watching, to where there's more and more militarism, more and more governments wanting to take land from other parts of their government or parts of the world. And I think that Donald Trump started this, when he came into office, as a practicality. But then when Atlas came along, Three Eye Atlas came along, and pretty much told everybody that was watching with an open mind, even with, they don't have to have much of an open mind to see that there's something going on with this object that is different from all the others, even though it's got some similar characteristics as well. But there's other things that are very subtle looking at first, but then really show a lot of unique behavior that really barks of intelligently driven, consciously driven things, choices being made. When that came to fore, I think all previous bets of what was above human, what was beyond human, were off. That was the positive part. In other words, there was no reason for faith anymore. There's no reason for the religions anymore. The religions have no value anymore, I don't think. I mean, sure, it can still have value. I shouldn't say it that way. But in reality, to cling to the religions is basically clinging to a story that was largely made up about the truth. That's where the people that say that seem to have some accuracy. That it was made up. That if you adore if you believe in this idea of this person that was from God, like Jesus, that and you confess that to other people, you tell other people about it. There's a truth to that, being part of the process of standing up for that individual, like standing up for Tian-Do, is the same process, because that shows the next level that you're willing to stand up for those older members. You recognize them as being older members of the of the next level above human. So so the highest beings you can actually really conceive of that have left a very strong imprint on this planet, on this human kingdom, by leaving behind all their material and witnesses to it. So if somebody's glued to the religion, then they're thinking, okay, where does it say that Jesus is coming back? Okay, it says it seems to say it in Revelation 19. And then it says other clues of that are talked about as well, right? And so here they are looking for, like Jesus said, you see the signs of my return as light strewn through the space, throughout the heavens, the outer space areas, and that it would be visible from east to west. You could see it traveling like east to west. And that's the way that humans see all the planets, the sun, the moon, and the stars are all rotating in that ecliptic pathway. It's a very specific, like plate. That's when the flat part comes in, It's like a plate within the dark matter around it. And so, well, that's all I guess I want to say about that, because I want to get home. I got to get up early and work with Kathy, and I think I'll be sitting in the car in her stream, but I won't be talking about this subject because Kathy's stream isn't about this. So, good night, folks.